Mike, a very good day.
How are you?
I'm very well indeed. I've got about 100 questions, but I will try and get these down to sort of 5 main ones. All right. You probably know, and maybe some of the people watching this, that I do a lot of remote control with my Kenwood. Some people might say it's a bit archaic, but it works for me. All right. Now, a lot of people say as soon as you mention remote control, they go, oh, you're going to need a flex for that. Why is that?
A lot of radios do remote now, or you can make them work, or you get creative with half a dozen different tools and make them work remotely. Every other radio out this, and I use the word every or never very cautiously, but I do want to say every other radio out there requires you to have some network skills to make them work remotely. Now, if you work in network and understanding TCP, IP, and port forwarding and stuff, and Dyn DNS, it's a no-brainer for you because you've played with this. But that's not the core of today's amateur operator, believe it or not. And we sort of learned this accidentally. When Flex Radio designed the 6000 series, and you can see one above my head here too, they designed it from the ground up to be remotable. It is about as complicated as turning it on and creating a login, no different than your Gmail account. And yet with the technology and the way we do it, it's also, it's the best of both worlds. It's simple to set up, and it has a peer-to-peer connection, meaning there's no, where I operate my radio here, I go directly to my radio there. I don't have to go through any server in the middle. And that's critical right now. If I look at my remote, which is 160 kilometers or 100 miles away, I'm looking at a round trip time of 24 milliseconds.
Yes, okay.
And that's why everybody says get a flex, because they designed it from the ground up to do that.
Okay, so it's a peer-to-peer. So you just got the internet in the way of it.
Yep, just the internet, the part we have no control over anyway, but correct.
Okay, yeah. You can buy this front panel, can you, for
Maestro?
It's called a Maestro, a Maestro control. Is that this thing here?
There's mine there. It sits under my monitor. Sorry for that. My cord's only so long.
Yeah, upside down. Yeah, okay, well, you're right.
There's us.
Yeah.
And it just plugs into the LAN on your house, and
does it find its own way to the radio then?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then do you supply a microphone and a loudspeaker and to the Maestro head then?
Bring the picture back up. I think there's a picture of the back, and this is going to change for the new version, which is coming out in a month-ish. There's key for CW key, powered speakers, line out, headphones, push-to-talk switch, 2 microphones. We're going to go to 1 microphone, a line in, and then a regular mic 1, which is an RJ45 wired for Yaesu. On the new one coming out shortly, we're actually going to get rid of the RJ45. I know there's going to be a shift in the time-space continuum here, but we're going to use a standard TRRS connector because that will allow more people worldwide to, heck, one of the best headsets I use is a $40 gaming headset. And we've changed the technology inside, so it's a lot more faster and robust. But and you know what? It's big. That's an 8-inch display.
Mike is a good friend of mine. He's got a channel as well, MSN. Mike was telling me he came up the other day dropping something off. He's got an FTDX10, and he's gone off it, right? Because he's also got a TS890. And he loves the feel of, I know the Kenwood 890 and 990 aren't, an old tube radio. It's got very much a feel of an analog sound. Now, I've never touched a flex radio in my life. Is the sound analog?
Yeah, but better. Because there's a change in technology here, a huge change in technology when we go from a super heterodyne radio to direct sampling. So I'm going to talk quickly about the science. In every other radio other than the K4 and the ICOM 7610, 7300, and a couple of others, they're direct sampling. That means that the radio energy comes right in the feed line, and we digitize it, we turn it into numbers right away.
Instantly.
In old school, or super het, which is a century-old technology, we have to mix it. And every time you mix radio signals, so you remember when you mix 2 radio signals, you get the sum and the difference on the 2 you mix with. And you have to get rid of 3 of them because you generally only want 1.
The 1.
Well, that was the difference between an expensive radio and a cheap superhet radio. Cheap is the wrong word. Inexpensive, a super heterodyne radio. And it was how much time and effort did the engineers put into making it quieter, like an ICOM, I don't know, 7600, right? It was a
Okay.
very quiet radio.
Yeah.
And then they got into double and triple conversion to try to get rid of all this smearing noise. Thank you to to direct sampling. You know what? We don't have to use any mixers, so we're now ahead of the game. Flex takes it one step further with some different technology that none of the other companies use in direct sampling. It's not patented because we'd have to make it public, but it is secret.
Yeah.
And how we manage the data after that and the signal, that when users first get it and they turn it on and they set up the gain correctly, and it's called the automatic gain control threshold, they
Okay.
think it's too silent and they're not going to hear weak signals. But
Yeah, I
nothing
read
could be
somebody
further
on
from the truth.
somebody on eHam said that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
he thought it was broken.
yeah, and the dynamic range is still huge. The ability to
Okay.
this is where dynamic range makes sense. The ability to hear really loud signals and really weak signals. And where it really becomes apparent is FT8. Often I'm working a lot of halfway across the world, 160 meters or 6 meters, the edge stuff on FT8.
Yeah.
And I'm copying, this happens on 160 all the time. I'm copying the guy, Uzbekistan or something, which is a little easier for you than me.
Yeah.
And I call him, he can't hear me. And I'll often send screenshots and say, hey, you're like -6 here. How come you're not hearing me?
Oh, I
And he's saying,
see.
yeah, there's really loud signals in the passband, which might turn down the gain of his
Yeah.
older radio. I routinely copy -16, -19 FT8 signals, 1 or 200 hertz from somebody who might be +10. That's a big range, right?
Yeah, it is. So you've got this RF coming in, which you need to control to a certain amount, and it's digitized. Now, how much of that is digitized?
What a great question. And I didn't even ask you to ask this. How about from 30 kilohertz to 54 megahertz 100% of the time?
I see.
And why do we do that?
Yeah.
Because that allows you to take two receivers. They're called slices. In the old school, we call them main receiver and sub receiver. And often
Yeah.
you couldn't get your sub receiver too far away from your main because it had to go through the front end passband. The way the Flex radio is designed, because you have this whole spectrum, which is this wide, I could have a receiver. What I hear it say in the US is I can have one on AM listening to a baseball game on, like 590 kilohertz,
Yeah.
using the same radio simultaneously on the same antenna. Now, we know that's not the right way to do it.
Yeah.
That's 6 meters.
Yeah, okay. Well, you could with a DX Commander.
Right. But because we digitize it at 16 bits, now that's a lot of data, right? That turns
Yeah.
out there's a little network in the radio that it's about 3 gigabits of data. Now, that doesn't sound like a big number, but how about we set it like 3,000 megabits? 3,000, that's
It
like three. My math
sounds
is
a
off.
lot.
It's a whole ton of data.
So
But
that's
it's all radio.
that's what's flowing through in real time.
Correct.
Okay, well, let's talk about these slices. So in the old days, I think of VFOs. All right, so
Correct. Same thing.
and I can like the 101 MP and my 990. I've got, as you said, I've got the main and the sub VFO or your receiver, and I can put this one on 20 meters and that one on 10 meters, and I can twiddle around and obviously receive both. Now, I happen to know, I think it's the 6600 has 4 of these. Is that right?
Well, yes, it has 4 slices.
Yeah.
But it also has the ability to use 2 different antenna systems or antennas at the same time, because it has 2, they're called spectral capture units. That's the last of the complicated terms I'm going to use. That's the part that digitizes the radio energy. And the cool thing is you don't have to sort of think about how they work. You say, hey, I'm going to go to 20 meters. That's on antenna 2. And it's plugged into antenna 2 in the back of the radio. I'm going to do 40, and that's on antenna 1, and that's plugged into antenna 1 in the back of the radio, and just tell it that. And it's very logical.
Now,
Unlike-
obviously, when I transmit on 40, 20 shuts up.
No, but you can leave it live.
Uh-huh.
The 6600, even the 6400, has bandpass filters in it.
Okay.
So you can. Do you know what SO2R is?
Oh,
Single operator
definitely.
two radio.
Yeah,
So
it's bloody
so the
hard.
66. Yeah, well, we tend to do it in contests at 3 in the morning when we're
I
really
know.
bored,
I know.
or the band's really bad. The 6600 is a full SO2R radio, and I have a video on the Flex Radio channel. You can go search for it. That shows me calling CQ on 40 while I'm dialing around on 20 on the
Yeah.
same radio. And the isolation is so good. I'm running full power. Like for me, that's 1500 plus watts
Yeah.
in Canada. I can go to 2250 in Canada in sideband.
Okay.
And my inverted V is a meter, like 3 feet below the stepper that's on 20.
Okay.
Now, if I go exactly to the second harmonic, say it was 7100, so that makes it
Yeah.
14200, sure,
Yes.
I see my radio signal, but
Yeah.
it's only out 20, 30 kcs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then as I get further away, in reality, if it was a phone contest, we're going to be at 7150,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
second harmonic's at 14300.
14.3. Yeah.
Right. I don't even see the noise floor doing this or even hear myself while it's
All right.
calling CQ.
Okay.
So this is, I don't think anybody else does this. Even the K4 today, if you wanted to do it,
All right.
great, wonderful product, by the way. I actually do have one behind me.
Okay.
Because I said I'm a ham first.
That's
You still
okay.
have to use two different K4s to do that. And
Right.
and put all your bandpass filters and add your devices to handle your
Yeah.
audio, the
Okay.
OTRSP. That's
So
all built in.
you're saying a 6600 is actually two separate radios, but you can only transmit one at
With a
one at a time.
shared transmitter,
Yeah.
correct?
Okay. People reading the eHam reviews, forget the people that have had a problem, or the thing broke or whatever else, but people seem to either love it or hate it.
Yeah, that's pretty much everybody, one
Why?
way or another.
I mentioned that to Mike K8 MRD. He went, "Oh, that's ham radio." But why do people love it, and why do people just something about it's not working with them? What do you think it might
I don't
be?
know. It's like pickup truck drivers or car drivers. I love my Nissan. I'd never drive a U.S. car again, but they're both wonderful cars and they have great features. The things I love about mine is it is so quiet. Its dynamic range is great. Its performance in digital RTTY modes. I'm not a big CW operator. If you're a high-end CW operator where you're 30 words a minute, you want QSK, you're going to hate us. We just don't do that well enough. It has to do with some of the latency in the decoding, and I cautiously use that word because it's easy to say the radio's latent, but at what rate? And would I even care as a normal operator how latent it is? Is 10 milliseconds? Do we care? No, we don't.
Now then, we now want to interface our 6600M, let's say, and I want a computer in front of me as well. So I've got to run some software or something, and I want not necessarily all the display, but I want at least to see the waterfall and everything. I've got my own logbook. I've got other toys on my display.
Of course.
All right, I can do all that.
Yes, you can. So unlike every other radio, or now we're seeing radios that have USB connections connected to them. Flex went a whole different route. Everything we do is handled at the LAN level or TCP/IP for a very good reason. The two helper programs, one called DAX, DAX, the other one called CAT, CAT. One's for controlling the radio, much like CAT control, no different, exactly the same. And the other one is for handling the audio. Again, we've all had our audio nightmares hooking up I'm going to just pick on ICOM 7300 to get it going in FT8.
Okay.
You have to, or an older HF radio like a TS690, you had to go buy or build an audio interface.
Yeah.
A thing. We build that all in with with two pieces of virtual software that make it just as simple as you've already learned. So you have to learn COM port numbers, or if you're a little more advanced, you can use IP numbers. And the same thing for audio. And then now the advantage is maybe I have two computers. Maybe I've got my logging laptop here and it's a little tired, but I use it for logging. But I've got another one that I want to use for running WSJT. I'm going to get carried away and I want to use a third computer for grid tracker for FT8. You can do that because now all the information you need is very simply shared on the network.
So I remote control by using, AnyDesk, TeamViewer, Chrome Remote, whatever, to my radio. So I can switch my shack on with my phone because I've got some relays on the internet. Click, 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 everything boots up. I Chrome Remote Desktop in, and I just fire it all up because there's a particular set of toys that I like. So that's one philosophy, which is bring your whole desktop to you. The other philosophy, which I think kind of a few manufacturers went down, which is we'll bring the radio to you here, and then you can run the rest of your toys on your local screen, right? So when people say remote, I'm not quite sure which one they mean.
I've been doing remote since 2005. I started with Kenwood and am now where we are today.
Right.
I only had 1 meg at my remote site, and I was still able to contest with 1 meg, even on the Flex Radio world. So my hybrid solution is anything to do with running on a desktop screen. So your logging software, WSJT and everything, you keep that all at the remote site.
Yeah.
Okay. The human stuff, the audio I want to hear, push to talk, my mic audio, then yeah, we have no choice. You have to bring that to me. But there's no sense bringing the audio for WSJT over the internet, allowing it to get corrupted or packet loss or whatever, when you can decode it locally, and it limits your upstream and you will get better performance.
Push to talk. Now, I actually use this headset, and I just talk, and the rig opens up. How does Flex manage PTT?
Good question. If you're using a Maestro, you can use a push-to-talk switch. It's built in. If you're not using a Maestro and you're just using a PC and the audio on the PC, you can use Vox. I'm not a Vox person. We don't have a perfect plug-and-play solution for push-to-talk remote. However, in the Flex Radio community, that's community.flexradio.com, half a dozen guys have come up with half a dozen different solutions. Mm-hmm. They're very simple. The really simple one is to buy I don't know how many quid it is, but $3 RS-232 dongle. But we had to go back to RS-232, and you essentially just close RTS to ground or whatever, and there's a way to detect it, and we pass that on. Okay. I was going to just finish then. There's another program we use called FR Stack as a plugin for hooking up foot switches to, and Stream Decks and a whole bunch of things.
So presumably we can plug in a Maestro, we can plug a PTT into that, a switch, and that in 35 milliseconds will close the contact at the other end. And is that what we're saying?
Yep. Yeah, actually what happens is the Maestro detects you're pushing the switch down, and it sends a command to the radio. You can actually watch this. All our commands to the radio are in English. It sends it a TX1 command. Well, you want to bet what that does?
Transmit. That's like Kenwood.
And then it sends a TX0 when you're stopping. So
okay. Yeah. Kenwood wants RX, but there we are. Okay, so all right, PTT. Is the Maestro, is that available now or not?
No.
Oh, okay.
Close.
Yeah.
And there you go. And you'll notice, by the way, the power button in the upper left corner looks like our other radios as well. It's a big improvement. And there's a PC. It's not a PC. There's a built-in microcomputer under the covers. So that's going to give us a lot more feature functionality and speed. And the resolution's a little better on this, but I doubt, you'll even notice the difference because of the way it's the back looks totally different. I should have my demo one here in a week or two, so we'll be
Don't tell anybody, they'll all want it. All right, let's just talk about audio then. So of the local to remote audio transport, is that inside the Flex Technology pipe, or do you...
Yes.
Okay.
It's plug and play. You don't have to worry about it. We use an Opus codec, and it's compressed and a little bit. I can't hear the difference, but some people claim they have. Somebody with your ear might be able to hear a little bit of the difference.
And is it selectable from 16, 24 kilobit or something, or it's just fixed?
No.
Okay. What other objections are there that people have and because they don't want to buy a flex, or they think they don't want a flex?
We have probably not spent as much time with Smart SDR, that's the software, over the last 3 years, due to to a lot of work we've been doing in the commercial world. You know how it is. If you got a product, it's a product you love to hate once in a while.
Read through the eHam reviews before tonight, and you were either getting 5 stars or 1 star.
Or 1 star, yeah.
It was like no in between, right?
So we do a Net Promoter Score survey, which on new purchases and stuff, and generally anything in bigger markets, if you score over 70 or 65 or 70 in an NPS, which is one simple question: would you recommend your product to a friend?
Okay.
So anytime you've had that survey,
Right.
that's an NPS survey. We're still sitting in the high 90s on that survey, and we've been running it well over a year.
Okay.
But
right.
what don't they like? Yeah, we've got nagging things we have not addressed in a timely manner. 3.6 is coming out, and I think there's a couple of things in there that without I wish I could share the news on it.
Okay. Is that the software?
It's a free software upgrade.
By the way, when I buy, and if I bought or anybody bought a Flex radio, is the software free, or is that another license that comes together?
No,
Okay.
mostly yes. If you're a Mac user, if you want to run Dog Park SDR or Smart SDR for Mac or Smart SDR for iOS, those are all buy items. We don't develop them; they're developed by our partners.
Okay.
Don and Marcus and whatever, they just wrote it on their own, and they sell it, they support it, and we just help them with the technical stuff. And if you were so inclined, and you're going to get asked this if you haven't got already, where's the Linux version, where's the Android version? And I've come to the conclusion that there isn't any HOF operators who are software developers and ham operators at the same time.
No,
the communication between the client and the radio is actually in almost plain English.
My really big bugbear is you call them slices, I'll call them VFOs, whatever. I want to take this VFO and that VFO. I want to hit a button and lock it. And then when I use the RIT, both of them spin. Do you know the answer to that?
The answer is no. If you want to use lock, and I want to know why you want to lock both VFOs. What's the case for this?
I have one antenna on this ear and one antenna on this ear when I'm running a pilot, because I find I've discovered that I listen to frequency and space. So I can focus my mind. This guy at 1:30 to 2 o'clock, who's a little bit lower, you've got 100 stations calling, my mind can focus in him, because it becomes, he might move because of the 2 VFOs. And then if he's off frequency, because he's got a very old radio, I want to just quickly go and bring them both down an 1/8 of a kilohertz or whatever. That's my reason.
Okay. We're going to come back to that, because I'm going to show you that. I just have to start something, so just bear with me. The blue is my receiving antennas, and the red are my transmitting. Okay. So red, antenna 1. I don't care over here because I'm transmitting. Yeah. But blue, antenna 1, and RXA, my beverage antenna.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And this is something you can do on a 6600 or a 6700. Now, if you happen to spin up the RIT by clicking this or using a flex control knob, your RIT tracks as you're asking.
Okay. All right. So I don't need to know that.
Pretty slick.
Okay. Now, I run N1MM. Can I send a little bit of ASCII code on a macro via N1MM, and it will tell the flex to go click, click, click?
Yep.
On the RIT.
Yep. Because either RIT or just change the receive, but either way, it doesn't matter. Yeah. This frequency is 100% slave to this. You don't have to manage it.
Okay. And I can listen to the one in the middle and the one on the left.
Sure.
Don is a question about CW spacing issue from Ray Ferrari. Could you pass that along to Mike? Now, we spoke about CW at the very beginning of this, if you remember. Is that only with remote fast CW?
No, that's just, it's in the radio. I mean, assuming we're talking, but I'm not sure he's asking the same question, is he?
I don't know either. Is he further up here?
We have no weight control. And if that's important to you, you can just plug in a wing keyer and plug a key into the back of the Maestro or deal with it that way.
Yeah. So Duncan says that the question was, when are you guys going to fix the CW spacing issue? So presumably you've got some issues here and there that people are aware or not aware of. Is that a real issue?
There is a small timing issue that happens if the radio is running for more than 48 hours. If you reboot every like Friday before a contest, you're fine. That is, I can honestly say that it is probably fixed, though I can't say when or what.
Buck says, I just think if you have to send your radio signals over the internet, it doesn't embody. I should say, we're not sending our radio signals over the internet. We're sending the control signals to control a radio because we can't be there. Right?
Right.
So
it's just a long microphone cord.
I have my antenna field. I've got all the hardware down at the farm, and I want to be able to operate when I'm at the house. You see, I can't really operate here. We've got a very small backyard.
You could be
houses everywhere.
Upstairs.
So, I've already got an antenna field, a bit of internet, and I can remote control. Watch my live streams, and you'll see, oh my God, he's just, I could be there. That's fine.
Alan, the way I word it is, it's just a long microphone cord.
It is. Long microphone, and, whatever. We've had to, I remember 15 years ago, remoting into my TS2000. It didn't work, but I still did it.
Well, we've gotten better at it. The 6300 is probably the least expensive radio you can buy today. We don't build it anymore, but they're out there. They're available, used. And you know what? If you buy or bring it up to the current software, whatever that costs, at worst case, it's nothing. Or at best case, it's nothing. At worst case, it's $199 US plus that or whatever. You know what? I can't think of any other radio that I bought back in 2013 that's still current today. The 6400 without a tuner at 2200-ish. I'm not in sales anymore. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. About 2200 US. 6400 is probably just shy of what a 7610 can do. The 6400 with a Maestro, sort of in the same, but this is where it gets fuzzy because it's not so black and white.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. I think there's far more feature functionality in a 6600 compared to 7610. So the 6600 is just over $3,000 US, and if you want the M model of each of the 64 or the 63, you add about $1,000 to make it a standalone unit.
Does the Flex automatically open up all the ports on your router? Yeah, okay.
All both of them.
Is there a transceiver with 8 slices or something?
Yes, we just stopped manufacturing of it. So because of, again, parts issues, the Flex 6700. And it goes without saying that we're probably going to have to come up with a replacement model. But
did people actually want 8 VFOs, slices, call them what you will?
Ask how many watchers that have our radio have a 6700 and use 7 of the 8. It's actually quite phenomenal.
Is that just because it's a pastime and they just like having it all there? I use my stuff in anger. I could only use maybe 2 bands at once because I haven't got 3 brains.
The beauty of the hobby, we all do different things with it. You're a contester. I'm turning less contester, more DXer. There are people just love studying propagation. FT8 may be, wonderful for them. And the digital guys tend to like 3 or 4 or 5 bands at the same time because they'll run, RTTY or Whisper or whatever. I can easily, believe it or not, open up 3 slices on 6 meters.
Have you got like a 6 kilohertz wide function?
You're thinking of ESSB. This is controlled envelope single sideband.
Oh, bloody hell. You come up with
controlled envelope single high is a compressor. It's in the RF domain, not the audio frequency domain.
So you're compressing the RF.
And it's written by Dave W9GR. He made it available to the entire ham community for free. Only Flex Radio and Elecraft took him up on that and on. And essentially, I sort of say we give you 3 dB more RF out, but I honestly think that everybody else gives you 3 dB less. And
Okay.
because when we overshoot, when we overdrive the radio immediately reduces its power to retain spectral
Inside.
purity. Right.
Yeah.
Controlled envelope single sideband has this. What it does is it keeps it less than 100%. Oops,
Yeah.
less than 100%, and it compresses the levels, and you essentially get more talk power. So your 100
Okay.
watts, your 400 watts in the UK is going to sound like 800.
May the force be with you, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank Mike for turning up and answering some questions. I'll
7-3,
wave,
everybody.
wave at the people back home, Mike, and we're all gone.